Picture this, you wake up, grab your phone, and immediately start checking all of your notifications. It's tempting, right? But it's also the absolute worst way you could start your day off. So let's check how we can start our mornings on a positive note. Quick question though, how long after waking do you think is the optimal time for us to start consuming caffeine, if we do consume at all? Leave me a comment down below with your answer. So what should we do in the morning? Well, obviously, as we discussed in the beginning of this video, the first thing is you shouldn't check your phone. Okay, so leave the notifications for 1 hour after you have woken up. So obviously you have to do your basic routine, eat breakfast, brush your teeth, etc, etc. But afterwards you should aim to get direct sunlight, meaning outside, not just through a window, within the first 3 hours of the day. This could be achieved by a handful of ways, whether it is going for a walk outside or just reading a book on your backyard. But why do we need this? Well, sunlight exposure actually helps regulate our circadian rhythm, and it allows us to kickstart our day with a burst of energy. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but very quickly, your circadian rhythm is essentially your body's internal clock, dictating when you feel awake and when you feel sleepy. It's influenced by facts like temperature, your eating habits, and, as we discussed previously, sunlight exposure. So, catching sunlight directly in your eyes in the first 3 hours of the day will significantly impact your overall well-being and productivity. Now, obviously, it's hard to do this every day because not everyone has time to do this. We either have school or university, or we have to go to work. So if you really can't do it in work days, make it count on the weekends. Me personally, what I like to do in the weekends after waking up is to just go outside, catch some sunlight in my face while reading a book, or perhaps listening to a podcast, or even sometimes just do some work on my laptop. So now that we covered that, what's actually happening when we get sunlight in our eyes early in the day? Well, I'm not an expert, but after some research, here's what I found. So there's a specific set of cells near our eyesight, and when these cells catch sunlight early in the day, this simple event sets in motion a huge amount of hormone regulation in our body, from cortisol, adenosine, and a bunch of other ones, making sure that later in the day you get a good night's sleep and wake up well rested in the following day. Now, I'm aware that lots of people like to kind of regain some of the lost sleep from the workdays on the weekends. But here's the thing, research actually shows that there is no such thing as a sleep vault. You can't just have a deficit of 4 hours and then tomorrow you'll sleep 8 plus 4 to make up for that deficit. That's just not how it works. So in the weekends, try to wake up at a similar hour as you do in the workdays. This way, your internal clock won't get completely messed up in the weekend. For example, on average, I wake up at like 7 a.m. on workdays. So what I do on the weekends is I normally wake up at 7:45 or 8 a.m. So we've covered how to start your day off, but we still have the rest of the day to go through. Ever wonder why you struggle with focus as the day progresses? Remember the question I placed at the beginning of the video? How long after waking do you believe is the optimal time for us to start consuming caffeine? Well, turns out the answer is actually 90 to 120 minutes after waking up. There's this hormone called cortisol, and as you can see in this chart, this hormone starts building up a couple of hours before we wake up, and eventually, once it reaches a certain threshold, you will then naturally wake up. And then, as the day progresses, it will start to drop off. Now, early caffeine consumption can lead to increased dependency because our body will start to rely less and less on its natural cortisol release. On the other hand, waiting 90 minutes allows the body to rely more on its natural wakefulness mechanisms, reducing the risk of caffeine dependence if a withdrawal occurs. Another common question we have often pondered ourselves with: why do we often feel that afternoon slump? You know what I'm talking about, normally around 3 p.m. I guess it would depend on when you eat lunch. Well, it's not just because you had a heavy lunch, even though that does make an impact. It turns out that our bodies actually do have a natural dip around this time, and it's influenced by a combination of factors. Now, one key player actually is the circadian rhythm we discussed earlier in the video. Around this time, many people experience a drop in alertness, often referred to as the post-lunch dip. This is because in the afternoon, it's common to experience a drop in cortisol levels, the hormone that wakes you up, and an increase in melatonin, the hormone that promotes sleep, resulting in that dip we so often experience. Now, I obviously oversimplified the process, but that's more or less how it goes. Additionally, factors like our lunch choices can impact this as well. For example, consuming a large, heavy carb meal will contribute to us feeling a bit sluggish. I know I've certainly experienced this when I eat a ton of pasta or a ton of rice at lunch. So, how can we combat this? Consider incorporating a brief walk or even a quick burst of physical activity into your afternoon routine. Also, be mindful of your lunch choices. I'm not saying you need to eat something light every single day at lunchtime. What I am saying is that if you have really important work that you need to do after lunch and you really don't want your alertness to be, lower than it needs to be, then perhaps eating a lighter meal will help achieving that. Okay, so let's recap the points we covered today. Firstly, we started by addressing the morning trap. Waking up and immediately checking your notifications on your phone is the absolute worst day you could start your day off. So just avoid it, okay? Try to push it as later in the day as you can. After emphasizing the importance of avoiding that, we discussed how exposing yourself to natural sunlight within the first 3 hours of the day will help you fall asleep later that day. This practice helps you regulate your circadian rhythm and boost your energy levels. Moving on, we explored why focus might decline as the day progresses. The optimal time to consume caffeine was around 90 to 120 minutes after waking up. This timing allows with the natural release of cortisol in our bodies. And lastly, we addressed the common afternoon slump. This dip in alertness is influenced by a bunch of factors, from your circadian rhythm, cortisol levels, and the accumulation of melatonin. Factors like lunch choices and meal size also play a role in this. To combat the afternoon slump, we suggested incorporating physical activity into your afternoon routine and being mindful of your lunch choices. A light meal can help maintaining steady levels of energy throughout your day. Remember, by implementing these strategies, you'll not only enhance your focus, but also set the stage for a more productive day. So that's it for this video, guys. Just a quick side note, I wanted to mention that yesterday we actually hit 100 subs. It's the first milestone of the channel and I'm incredibly grateful for every single one of you. I truly do hope that you guys get some value out of these videos and that they help improving your lifestyle. Also, if I seemed a bit tired today or a bit sluggish, it's because I actually ran like 12 kilometers today. I actually have in mind that I want to do a marathon until the end of the year. So yeah, I'm starting the training. Gotta walk the talk. But yeah, with that said, I truly do hope that you guys got some value out of it and keep striving for your goals. I'll see you in the next one.